What is up, AKAPADers? Thank you for joining me. I am Peter A. DeLuca, AKAPAD, your host, your boy, your guiding light in the world of pop culture, and we're wrapping up our giant Terminator franchise thread. Yeah, we went into it all. We started with 1984 Terminator, and now we're ending in 2019 Terminator Dark Fate. In between, we've had web series, animated shows, TV shows, we basically did everything but the novels, comics, and video games. And not that there's many comics, novels, or video games to reference, but I will say there's a Terminator shoot 'em up that is when there's interactive arcade, expensive too. It's usually like $1 a play. Whatever the name of that arcade is, I love it. But anyway, we're talking Dark Fate, and there's an elephant in the room. Let's get to it. You hear that intro. Let's get through the intro and back to the show. The elephant in the room. Welcome back. Okay, what exactly am I talking about? What am I talking about with Terminator? What does Terminator Dark Fate have to do with an elephant in the room? Look, there's been different times, multiple times. I try not to make it frequent. I feel like I have to make this statement to move forward. We don't do politics. I don't believe, even when an artist, even when you're trying to be creative, even when you kind of know the intent of the work is to be political, I don't believe it serves the critic or the reviewer to directly address it and to maybe we'll say undress the property or undress the content around the political, if the reviewer feels like it's lies or it's misdirection, but to undress the politics, sometimes, a lot of times when these movies come in with some political heat nowadays, and this is a modern thing, okay? This really didn't exist the previous generation. Now, if we go back kind of like 2 generations ago, when we deal with McCarthyism, there were communists that were working in Hollywood trying to put ideas into movies. Were there people falsely prosecuted for that? Yes. But it doesn't make it so that others weren't doing that. We know others were doing that. Maybe we'll get into that sometime. But today, it's out there, it's free, and the content around it, and a lot of it is these filmmakers and people involved with the production get completely wrapped up in the politics, and they feel like they have to hardline their audience, and they have to do it early, they have to draw that line quick. And if you're not about this, you're about these other things, and they label you. Now, that is very different than, the guys that Walt Disney helped turn in and so on and so forth, okay? We're dealing with different eras. This is a different war. This is what they may call the culture war. Now, for this podcast, why do I not like talking about it? Because I even feel like when the movie comes in with some political heat, Solo, Dark Phoenix, a lot of times it's not so. That doesn't mean that Kong Skull Island has misplaced commentary. Kong Skull Island is still an even movie. I've only seen that movie once, but little takeaway from that movie, little reason to go back and explore. And one of the reasons why I don't directly like to hit it on the head, because I hopefully believe, people deserve opinions. They deserve platforms to express them. And as long as you're not calling for violence, that's the social contract. Say what you want, but don't call for violence. Don't be violent. You know, a little bit of free speech is venting. You should have the right to vent. So, how does all that roll in with Dark Fate? Well, we hit this peak. We hit this precipice, okay, when Star Wars Last Jedi came out a couple years ago. Now, at this point, it was widely believed that what they call SJW, Social Justice Warriors, somewhat infected or took over Lucasfilm, the company making Star Wars. And we have Kathleen Kennedy. She is inheritor to the throne of the Star Wars empire, and it is an empire. Leading into our next episode, Empire of Dreams, to kick off our Star Wars run. A little plug there. And, these pictures circulate of the Force as feminist and all these other things. And then we get female characters that are, they just appear all-powerful and not have much of a hero's journey. They're clear analogs for, like, someone like Luke Skywalker, but, and then we have generals who, boss around boys, boss around soldiers, grown men. And, so a lot of this stuff, like, started to build up around Last Jedi. And since then, there's been a culture war, for tentpole Hollywood movies. Now, what other movies have this overflowed into? It did overflow into X-Men Dark Phoenix. It overflowed into Captain Marvel. It overflowed into this movie. When people saw just the visual of the direction, meaning there was a Entertainment Weekly still shot of our female Terminator, a female Spanish or Mexican girl, and Sarah Connor, female, Linda Hamilton, returning to her role that she really, really hit home in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So it's been a while. And, people lost their minds and they labeled this as an SJW movie. Now, this was even forwarded by our Terminator. We have a new Terminator, and he's not jacked. He's not giant. He's not masculine. And it doesn't mean that every Terminator needs to be jacked, because Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from Terminator 2, wasn't jacked. Our female Terminator from T3 Rise of the Machines wasn't. I think the X1, was not jacked. Our female in Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show was not jacked. Now, the one thing that was missed, okay, is our director Tim Miller says anyone that's not into this movie because of the feminist angle, or he makes a comment something, and he's like, these people are in for rude awakening and they can go scratch off, and so he makes this comment splitting the core, splitting the base of Terminator. And this furthers the fears that people had in Captain Marvel, where Captain Marvel, really didn't hit well character-wise. There's ideas and theories out there that Captain Marvel was cut more out of Avengers Endgame. Like Rey from Star Wars, and like Captain Marvel, these characters are just given all powerfulness. They're not earning their all powerfulness, and they simply are because they're women. Off the top of my head, I don't know many stories where that works, where it's like not animated, I'll say. That formula really doesn't work. Having something like a hero's journey within the film, peaks and valleys, rise and fall, is storytelling. It kind of works. It works every time. So, Tim Miller makes this attack. And then, again, we have Last Jedi, Solo, Captain Marvel, Dark Phoenix. all kind of labeled it as SJW infected movies. Now, there's all this fear of all these the upcoming Marvel movies of being SJW driven. I would say less of that is clear. I think some of the faults of Avengers Endgame came from, they didn't have any source material to mine for Avengers Endgame. That was their like solo project almost. They said that they were going to have a story, and they did it, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that's because there was no source material, there was no endpoint. Star Wars is somewhat victim because Lucasfilm is forcefully not using the back catalog of comics and novels for Star Wars. So, you can kind of chalk it up that Captain Marvel, when Last Jedi, even with the downward box office, still a win. And then, Solo, Dark Phoenix, and this movie are losses. So, SJWs have 2, and the other Culture Warriors, maybe the level-headed individuals have 3. So it's 3-2. Now, like what are some of the repercussions of this? Like, what really happens? Well, getting back to one of my points, Terminator has a long history of rolling in females. Okay, you can really argue that Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles, major Fox TV show, good ratings season 1, ratings cut in half season 2, lasted 2 seasons, but that's more than a lot of other shows. You can argue that, wow, like they're really pushing girls in this, but there's no agenda attached. There's no preachiness attached. There's no moments to take you out of the movie forcefully. Now, this does happen in Solo. This does happen in all the other movies I named. Happens in Dark Phoenix. Happens in Last Jedi. It takes you out. But does it take you out enough? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I argue that what they criticized Solo for was nominal. I feel like Solo did not get a fair shake. I understand X-Men. I really do. But we're dealing with a couple things here, and it's impossible to determine why at this point. Dark Fate may have failed just because people don't want Schwarzenegger and they don't want a Terminator movie. They didn't want Linda Hamilton. Maybe the people wanted a Terminator concept, but bigger and better and thought out. Now, I feel like they got that with Genesis. But Genesis didn't put it all in the first movie. Genesis was the proposed trilogy. They didn't put it into the first movie. Maybe that's also what happened here. They didn't put it in here because they're pushing for 3 movies. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but the Culture Wars, took out another flick. Now, we have the Culture Wars now brewing for Rise of Skywalker. This seems to be the biggest victory. If Rise of Skywalker opens under 200 million, it's a major loss. Major loss. This movie, okay? Let's just go through some of the box office. Opening weekend, $30 million. Domestic box office, $61 million. Worldwide, $250 million. And $250 million on any standard, fantastic. With or without inflation, that's great. It would be the second highest or second lowest grossing Terminator movie, though. It would be behind or in front of Terminator 1984 at $78 million. The budget, though, $185 million. So, if we roll in advertising, yeah, it's tough to see how Terminator Dark Fate made money. It really is. Now, here's the funny thing. Rainbow Last Blood just became available on digital a couple days ago. The Joker is going to be on digital, I think, within a week or two. Quick rollout, right? Bravo for both of those movies. I don't know where the digital release is for this movie. I think it should be on the horizon. I feel like when this happens, I think quicker to digital, the better. Especially around the holidays, because people will stay in. Philly's empty because it's been so freaking cold. And it's not even cold yet. We're dealing with like mid-30s. It's not even cold yet. People just don't like it. So, Terminator Dark Fate really is just across the board, just tough. Now, this could also be people are sick of the franchise. This maybe is also what happened with Predator. This maybe is what also happened with Alien Covenant. What's the solution? I think all these three movies have the same solution. We got to turn it back. We got to turn it over to the fans. We have to let a run of people introduce some fresh new ideas to get some things going into these franchises. I guess is it Disney for one part should put up sites with available clips and blue screen shots and sound effects. Terminator is always weird when it comes to the rights. It's always complicated, and it's a straight up headache. But yeah. So, I'm still looking forward to seeing this movie. But comparing it to even Terminator Genesis, that I feel like had better marketing, better creativity around it, better posters. Again, the visual of the T-3000, just effing cool. I think all of it got more people excited, got more people into the theater, and comparatively speaking, worldwide, Terminator Genesis 2015, $432 million worldwide. Again, Dark Fate is at $250. Salvation 2009, $365 million worldwide. Okay, Genesis is right at Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines 2003 at 40. Both of them nearly at $433 million. Isn't that amazing? People were excited for Rise of the Machines, and people were excited for Genesis. So it goes to show you that this franchise is not locked down by Schwarzenegger. It's not locked down by Cameron. This is a franchise that people want and they need to get excited for, because it is, next to Star Trek, the best science fiction franchise we have. Because you can go low budget and you can go high budget. Star Trek is only high budget. Star Wars is fantasy, it's sci-fi fantasy, so it's a curve there. You can only go big budget with with Star Wars. So I'm telling you, people, I would say like the politics and the internet won. It won, but everyone lost. Like if they win, we lose. I'm hoping that this movie's good, just to be able to say it's good. Just be able to talk about, just be able to understand some of the nuance of the narration. And I'm curious on, look, killing John Connor, and the people flipped out. Killing John Connor is not new to the franchise. It's not. They've done it. They teased it with episode 1 of Sarah Connor Chronicles. We got the death of John Connor, the future John Connor in Rise of the Machines. The original ending of Salvation was the death of John Connor. So we're not these ideas of the Resistance dealing and still battling the machines without John Connor in the Terminator future is not a foreign idea. I think the enjoyment of all these movies is understanding that Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a closing of the circle. And we have these different threads that are different ideas to what to do next. Each one good enough for a series of films on their own. What's not to enjoy about that? I don't really know. I think people take Terminator too seriously because 84, Terminator 1984, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day were very artistic and so well period. They were just so well done, and there's like this mythical standard now. But if you go back and you talk about those movies, there's little there. There's very little to discuss. But if you see the movies, you get it. And that's the difference. Like, you really have to watch those first two movies. So, look, I'm going to sign off here. We got Star Wars coming. We got a lot of Star Wars. we have Star Wars out the wazoo. But we're doing interesting deep dives, interesting discussions. Everything you expect from AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast. But look, everyone, thank you so much. I do love you. I really do. Whenever I see Dark Fate, I'm just going to throw it in. Even if I'm on like a Star Wars run or something, I'm just going to throw it in there. I'm sorry. We need to finish this. And I do apologize. I feel like I failed everyone. But Dark Fate was in and out of theaters very quickly. There was very little I could do about it. I just couldn't get a good theater at a good time to where I was in Philly. So, look, everyone, though, until next time, episode 262 is going to be Empire of Dreams, 2004 DVD documentary. It's 2.5 hours long. It is about Lucas. It is about Star Wars. And I watched it. And I took notes. And we're going to go through my notes, which are all bullet point things that you should know about Star Wars that make it. It really does make Star Wars the greatest franchise of all time, period, for film. Maybe ever. Maybe biggest property ever. And why also people are forgetting that Star Wars, was I saying Star Trek? Star Wars can endure nearly anything, including this SJW wave, including a Rise of Skywalker teardown, including a bomb of a story like Last Jedi. I'm not a fan of Last Jedi. I respect it for the balls, but not a fan of it. Hey, everyone, I love you, rock and roll, and until next time.